been thinking a lot about balance lately because there's so much ice outside, right? I got out of the pool deck um Tuesday morning and it was, but freezing cold and there was I think it's already recording. Thank you. Um anyway, I got out of the pool. It's dark out. It's still dark when I got out of the pool and I got up and there's salt all over the place on the ice, but I totally did a slide and one of those the arms go flying, but of course didn't fall, thank goodness, because concrete pool deck. But it just made me realize like we have to just be so careful, right? Always walk on the sunny side of the street, all the things. But inevitably, it's really difficult to survive a winter in Denver without having to navigate ice on some level. And, people fall constantly and injure themselves. And I know that's what we're all trying to avoid. And it made me just think, so a few things made me think about balance. That we're all kind of in a treacherous time of year. As well as, have you ever had the experience where maybe you've been tumbled in a wave and you don't know which way is up for a moment? Or you wake up and you don't know where you are and you're a little disoriented for a moment, and kind of that feeling of not knowing which way is up. So I think probably everybody's had some experience of having their vestibular system challenged significantly. But it seems to me that a lot of people lately that I've been talking to are struggling with dizziness or vertigo on some level. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the vestibular complex in the ear, the inner ear, which is only one little piece of what helps us create balance. So, balance is obviously and so important to keep our whole bodies safe. And this is one aspect of it. So we have in the inner ear, we have a vestibular complex that, is part of that vestibular system that helps us figure out which way is up and where we are in space. And if you've ever seen a picture of the vestibular complex, it always reminds me of, it looks like a little snail. You have the cochlea, which is, like kind of this bone that's spiraled. And then right on top of it, there's these two sacs. They're like two membranes, and that's called the vestibule. And then right on top of it, that you have these semicircular canals. They're like three loops with fluid in them. And the semicircular canals are kind of cool because they're shaped in 90-degree angles to each other, and they're very tiny. And there's fluid inside them. And when you move your head to the side or to the front or to the back, or like tipping it in all the directions, those three canals, because of the way that they are angled, they can determine like your head is up, your head is sideways, your head is tilted. They know where you are in space. That's what's detecting your the position of your head. And there's these little hair cells, tiny, that connect to the vestibular nerve. And it's so rapid fire. It's amazing how our nervous system responds so rapid fire with the detection of these hair cells in these semicircular canals that the fluid slightly shifts, and these hair cells tell immediately the brain your head's tilted. So it's kind of a miracle, if you ask me, that we have this, because it's so tiny, it's not microscopic, but it's super tiny inside both of your ears. And then the vestibules, if you've heard of those crystals in your ears that can get offline, in the vestibule, there's these two membrane sacs that have, like a gelatinous fluid in them. And there's these crystals, which are like 1/10 of the size of a salt crystal. They're tiny. Kind of are embedded on the top shelf of this gelatinous fluid that's in there. And the hair cells, when you move, the crystals tip, and the hair cells can feel the pressure of them coming down in that fluid to tell you like which way is down. So they detect gravity and they detect velocity, like forward movement. So if the car speeds up and you feel that sensation that suddenly you're moving faster, that's those crystals in your ears telling you where you are. So sometimes the crystals in your ears can move and they can stack on top of each other instead of laying flat, or they can travel and migrate into the semicircular canals and be where they're not supposed to be and mess up that whole system. So there's a thing called the Epley maneuver where you can go to a specialist and they can do all these things to reposition the crystals in your ears, which can sometimes help that sense of vertigo. So there's a difference between vertigo and dizziness. Vertigo is like when you feel like things are spinning, like the room is spinning, and dizziness is that feeling like all the blood just went out of your head and you're like pass outy and kind of like just dizzy, but it's not spinning, right? So those are two kind of distinct ways that we can have balance and vestibular challenges show up. And like I said, that's just little teeny anatomy lesson, but that's only one aspect of our balance. We also have proprioception all over our whole body, in all of our joints, everywhere in our body has the perception of where am I in space? Where am I in space? And then of course our eyes are a big part of holding our balance and knowing where that horizon line is. So there's just so many aspects to training our balance, that some are within our control, like our proprioception, and some are not in our control, like what the crystals are doing inside of our ears. So we want to make sure that we're doing practices regularly that help tone our proprioceptive capacities, so that when you do slip on the pool deck or whatever else you got going on, or you tumble in a wave and you're sit up, you're like, okay, where am I? That you have these protective things within us that help us stay safe, so we're not falling. So that's what we're going to do a little bit today. Impaired balance along with fatigue. Yeah, long COVID can do, I've heard that, Ruth, that there's long COVID can have some problems from viral infections that can affect the inner ears. And yes, I'm so sorry. And this is, I wonder sometimes if there's a lot of infection, viral load that's kind of hanging out in ears, sometimes causing problems. So today we're going to work with what's under our control, which is more of our musculature and our proprioception awareness. And we're gonna work on kind of cultivating that, so that I'm hoping everybody can catch themselves when they're about to fall instead of falling and doing some damage. Okay, so sorry about the chatty long, but let's go ahead and find a comfortable seat. So as you sit, let's pay attention when you first close your eyes to noticing this head position. We take it for granted all day long that our nervous system is constantly being aware of where our head is in space in relation to the horizon line, to the earth. Okay, so when you come into a comfortable position, first just notice the position of your head. Can you notice if you tend to have a slight tilt, is your habitual patterning with a little bit of a tilt in your head, or a little bit of jutting forward, or chin down or chin up, like try to pay attention and notice if what you sense as neutral actually is neutral. I feel this all the time on my massage table. People's heads will be tilted and then I put them straight and they feel like they're tilted when they're actually straight. So pay attention to if you sense a true sense of alignment. And allow the heaviness of your head to kind of be on that pedestal of your spine. And can you sense this? Can you sense when you move your head forward a little bit and move your head back a little bit? What's sensing the movement of your head? Can you feel all that capacity of proprioception, where you're sensing a change in the center of your gravity or your weight bearing? And now let's slowly tip one ear down and one ear up and let your neck have a little nice stretch. But just notice the beauty that your body knows where it is in space. Have a little bit of appreciation for those vestibular nerves in your ears. Come back to center And let's tip our ear over to the other side, stretching through your neck. And maybe you do have a little challenge with balance, and just notice if head positional changes impact that at all, if your dizziness or vertigo happens to you. Come back to center. Let's lift the chin all the way up, touch your teeth. So you're stretching through the front of your throat and your neck. And notice how the rest of your body is supporting that change of position in your head. And then tip your head down. And then come back up and turn your head to the right. Feeling that stretch across the front of your left shoulder, but just more awareness around our body's ability to know where we are in space. And then turn your head all the way to the other side. And if you don't struggle with dizziness or vertigo, let's have some deep gratitude for that, because it can be very life altering. Okay, come back to center. Okay, let's shrug up your ears and then relax. Take a moment with your eyes closed to relax your eyes, all the muscles around your eyes. See if you can soften. Our eyes are a very big part of our sense of balance, so let's just enjoy a sense of ease across our eyes. Come into your breath. Ready, bring your hands together at the center. And notice that this is a bit of your proprioception too, knowing where center is with your eyes closed. Be aware of how much your nervous system relies on your eyes, but also doesn't rely on your eyes to know where you are in space. Let's offer an intention here. And then release your hands. And let's find our way onto our back. All right, so as you stretch out and lengthen on your mat, take a moment to just enjoy coming home into your body. The beginning of our yoga practice, such a treat to just stretch. So move one side a little longer and move another. And again, having a deep sense of appreciation that we know where we are in space. We have all these little receptors in our muscle fibers and in our joint spaces and in our skin. And so, we have all this awareness of where we are in space. Can you imagine if that didn't exist? You would have no sense of yourself in space, and how disorienting that would be. All right, let's draw your knees into your chest. And let's rock a little bit from side to side. And notice when you're rocking that head positional change. Sometimes rocking in its disorientation can be what feels good about it. That we can kind of change our attachment to a steady state and allow a little bit more letting go. All right, let's hang on to the knees and open them up wide and bring them back in, and pay attention to all that sensation you feel in your hip joints. And then right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground. And let's go ahead and roll around in our ankles and wiggle our toes and feel a deep compression in the knee joint. Our feet are so important for our capacity to stay in good balance. So keep your ankles mobile. Every day, I think it's good to do a little bit of this ankle mobility work. All right, hug your other knee and left knee and right leg long on the ground, and let's feel our movement of our ankles and our toes again. And try not to just do circles, do some, turning left and right, and some flexing and some pointing and some wiggling. And then stretch open your body like a star on the ground and reach out into space. And even with your eyes closed, and you can feel where you are in space. Okay, so notice that, have some appreciation. And then draw your knees into your chest, pick up your head.
One more time. Open big and wide. Exhale, drawing in knees to chest. All right, relax your head, arms out to the side, feet on the ground, and let's windshield wiper our knees. Turn your head in opposition of your knees. And of course, for the many, many reasons, which I only, talked about a little bit of it, but there's so many reasons why dizziness might arrive for you. So if turning your head does cause problems, you can always do much more steady yoga practices where you try to keep your head in a much more neutral place. But if you're okay, let's challenge that today so we kind of, hone these skills. All right, let's roll over onto our side and come up to your hands and your knees. And as you find your way onto all fours, notice that you've changed your position of gravity a couple times already. Lying on your back, now in this position. Okay, so as we start moving through some cat cows, pay attention to the position of your head. As you drop it down and as you lift it up, notice each vertebrae. Notice your breathing. And then after a couple of rounds of cat cows, feel free to move your spine any way you want to move your spine. It's such a good feeling to warm up and loosen different parts of your body. And again, let's pay particular attention to your feet. Curl your toes under, touch your big toe mounds, and then drop back towards child's pose for however far back your body, your feet will allow you to go. And spread open all the bones of your feet. So much fascia, lots of tendons. See what you can do to spread the bottom of your feet. And imagine you have eyes down there so that there's just so much awareness of where you are when we stand. We'll get there to standing. Come back up. Give your feet a couple of smacks on the ground, tops of the feet. And then stretch back to a normal child's pose and stretch your arms overhead. So feet are more neutral now. Extend through your sides, breathing deeply. Walk the hands over to one side or the other and enjoy that sense of spreading out your rib cage and opening through your shoulder and your lats and your hip. Find your way to the other side, feeling that extension and length here. Soften your skull, deepen your breath. And come back to center. Come up onto all fours again. Wiggle your spine around. Let's take a twist. Arm up in the air. Exhale, slide that arm underneath and enjoy. Melt your skull toward the ground. Notice how your body, if everything's working properly in that vestibular system, you kind of know where you are in space. If your eyes are closed, you know which way is up and you know which way is down, not just because your head's on the ground. All right, and then let's go ahead and reach that arm all the way back up in the air. Hand down, switching sides, arm up to the sky. Slide that arm down. Breathing deeply. Full inhale, a full exhale. Reach that arm all the way back up again. Hand comes down onto the ground and let's find a dog pose. So as you come up in the posture, take some time pedaling your feet, kind of finding all of that warming up in the fascia and the ligaments and the tendons and the muscles around your feet. Notice your bones in your feet. Okay. Ground yourself. Notice when your head is low like this, we're very close to the ground. So sense that, and maybe there's some ease that comes from knowing you have so much contact with the ground. All right, and then walk your feet forward and come to Uttanasana. Bobble your head, shake your shoulders, shimmy, maybe bounce a little. And then a halfway lift, extending the spine a little bit longer. Bring your hands onto high blocks for a moment and let's bend and straighten each knee here. So as you bend one knee, let your other hip go way back. So we're starting to wake up and open some of those outer hip muscles, which are very important for our stability when we're standing. They're good ones to recruit when we need some balance. All right, and then see what it feels like to seesaw your feet on the ground. So pick toes up and opposite heel, and then pick toes up and opposite heel. Just kind of waking up the feet a little bit more. And then bend your knees. Relax here, soften into your forward fold. Inhale, rise up. Now, one of the ways that dizziness can arrive is from blood pressure changes. So notice when you go down and then come back up. If you get dizzy, sometimes that can be a blood pressure issue, which can take some of the blood out of your brain for a moment. So if that's the case, always remember that squeezing toward the midline will help you rise that blood back up. Okay. Stand in Tadasana for a moment. Let's feel our feet. Okay. Soften your gaze somewhere. So open your eyes, but let the muscles around your eyes soften a little bit. And let's warm up our feet a little bit more. So we're going to rock into our heels, rock into our toes. Okay, finding your breathing. Waking up your calf muscles a little bit. So all these are this movement of your ankles and your feet and getting the strength built up in these places, very important for good balance. Okay, up onto your toes, reach your arms high. Feel that little bit of challenge in your balance. And then exhale and float forward, feet back down on the ground. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt to fold. Take your hands to the outside of your knees. Feet are hip width apart. Press a little into the outside of your knees. So that your feet can grab the ground too and drag the mat apart. So start to wake up that outside line of the legs, the outer hip muscles all the way down to the outer shins. And then relax that. Come for a halfway lift. And then stretch back to a dog pose. Walking the feet back, extending through your spine. Feet are hip width apart. Spread the bones of your feet. Let's grip the ground, the mat, with our toe mounds and see if you can try to split the mat apart. So we're anchoring our toe beds and then pulling them apart from each other and feel those outer hip muscles light up again. Relax that, come forward into a plank. Our core is another very big aspect of our stability when we're trying to maintain balance. So sense into the center of your body. Root your index finger mounds down instead of just your outer wrists. Integrate through the core. Finding your breathing. Shoulders down away from the ears. And we'll put our knees down onto the ground and find the earth. Notice your awareness of where you are in space. Roll the shoulders a couple of times here. Inhale, cobra pose. Exhale, melting back down. Again, rising up, elbows back, chest broad. Melt to come back down. We're going to do it a third time, but this time with little head movement. Take your fingertips on the ground a little bit wider and farther forward. Inhale, lift up, turn your head to the right. Coming back down. Back up you go. Turn your head to the left. Coming back down. Up onto all fours. Move your spine around, wag your tail. All right, and then lift up to dog pose again. Let's lift the right leg up in the air and bring that foot forward to a lunge. Ground yourself. Reach your heart forward and let's begin to bend and straighten the front knee. As you take a couple of passes, when you straighten your front leg, first drop your toes deep into the ground, stretching the top of your foot, and maybe the next pass, flex your toes off the ground and feel that calf open up. So make sure you do at least one of each. Finding your breathing. All right, ground yourself. Know where your feet are. Feel their connection to the ground. Rise up. Notice how much you're relying on your eyes to know where you are in space. Okay? Can you sense your neutral head? Now, while you're here, see if you can dim your eyes a little bit. So close your lids, maybe just have a little peeking spot out through the bottom of your lids. Maybe you can engage your core a little bit more, bend your back knee a little bit more so that you're a little lower to the ground. And see, maybe your right foot needs to come out to the right a little bit more. Maybe your arms need to come out to the sides. Check in with what's going to help you with some balance. And then have a moment of trusting, closing your eyes. Look how much we rely on our vision. Okay. Release your hands, open your eyes, walk your back foot forward and fold. I always wonder about blindness and how long it must take. It must happen, where we start to rely on other senses to give us those feedback loops. But if someone suddenly becomes blind, I wonder what that transition must feel like of losing our vision to control our balance. All right, so come forward into a lunge with your other foot. So left foot is in front. Open up through your heart. Take a few passes, remembering to drop your whole foot into the ground, stretching the top of your foot. And maybe the next pass of straightening that leg, you lift your toes off the floor, tuck your chin, and stretch through that calf. Breathing deeply. Ground yourself. Now we know that we're going to not rely on our eyes for this whole thing. So maybe start with a little wider stance. Feel where you are in space. Ground your legs. Inhale and come on up to crescent lunge. Root down. Okay. It's sometimes helpful to bend the back knee a little bit so we're just slightly lower with our center of gravity. Engage your core. Reach your arms up to begin, but maybe that's not where you're going to stay. Okay. Eyes can start to close gently. First, just a little peekaboo. And then if you have some faith and feel okay, and don't worry, if you need your eyes, keep them open. Okay, but if you're experimenting, maybe squint, but also maybe try fully closing your eyes. Feel your arms coming out to help instead of up, if that's better. Press your legs into the ground. And then open your eyes, bring your arms down to the ground. Walk your front foot back, lift that leg high in the air, three-legged dog. Place your foot down onto the ground. Come on to all fours. Okay. Let's take, and when we're this close to the ground, it often doesn't feel like it should affect your balance very much, but this is a good posture to practice balance in bird dog. So let's take our right leg straight back behind you, left arm out in front of you, and start to feel the subtle wobbling. Okay, integrate your core and your hips. Notice how your body is constantly telling you where you are in space. And let's bring our arm and leg out to the side. Hold that for a minute, facing the ground. At any point, you can practice closing your eyes to just take notice of how much you rely on your vision. back to center, and now we're gonna cross our arm past the midline and leg past the midline. So it's a little awkward, I know. And then come back to center, hands and knee down onto the ground. Sit back and give your hands a little bit of a shake if you need. And we'll do these three same positions on the other side. So hands come down. You can always take fists onto the ground if you'd like. And this time we'll take our left leg straight back and our right arm out in front of you. Face the ground with your head. Integrate the core of your body. So your glutes, your outer hips, your core all should be working. Find your breathing. Stabilizing through your center. And let's open out to the sides with your arm and your leg, toes down, thumb up. Press your shin and hand into the ground, lots of core. Feel those outer hip muscles work for you. And then back to the midline, cross the midline, both with your arm and your leg. It's a little awkward with your arm. You can always hold your shoulder if it's hard to keep your arm there. Breathing deeply. And then back to center. Release back into child's pose. Let your head soften toward the ground. If you're touching the ground with your head, notice how much feedback you have in your body to tell you where you are in space. I will lift up into dog pose. Full breaths here. Spread out the bones of your feet again. And then walk your feet forward. Come to Uttanasana. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt to fold again. Bend down, feet hip width apart. Bend down like a chair, hands on the outer knees. Press outer knees into hands, hands into knees. Grip your four corners of your feet and pull your feet apart. Notice if one leg's stronger than the other. Do you have more response in one leg versus the other? Inhale and come on up. We were down for a while, so notice that it might take a moment for your body to just settle itself in the awareness of standing. Find your breath. Okay, we're going to take our legs, not as wide apart as standing poses, but wider than your hips. And we're just going to simply, this is very simply, come up off of your right heel. Okay. So you're going to come onto your toes of your right foot and look at your right foot. And then back down with your heel, turn your head, look at your left foot, lift your heel up off the ground. Now it feels like this isn't much of anything, but it's a lot. Okay, we're giving our vision to our feet, and we're really paying attention to what it feels like to have your feet on the ground, to lift one up, to feel the other rooted. Okay, just going back and forth. And now lift up your head, neutral, and don't use your eyes to know where the awareness of your feet is. And just notice when you disconnected your eyes to your feet, do you still have as much awareness in what's happening with your feet? So send all that imagery that your eyes were taking into the sensation of what you're feeling in your feet. So recognize that you can feel things without looking at things. All right, and then come to neutral. Stand on your right foot and bring your left foot directly in front. So your toes and your heels are, they don't have to touch, but they could touch. So very close. All right, and then cross your hands over your chest, hands on each shoulder. Now, again, this may feel like not much of anything, but just stay here for a moment. Have a few breaths, and you start to realize that there's a lot happening here. Which foot do you tend to bear more weight in? And now see what it might feel like to squint the eyes. Practice taking the vision out of the equation. And now see what it might feel like to close your eyes. And how much harder everything just got. Remember, you know your feet.
Even without your vision, you know your feet. Make sure you're breathing, don't hold your breath. Notice how much movement your feet have. And this is good. This is all those subtle little proprioceptive challenges which help us when we slip on ice and prevent us from falling. Okay. All right, and then relax that. Relax your arms, and we'll change sides. So other foot, we're just, imagine you're doing that. I've never had to do this, thank God, but I think this is part of the balance challenge that for a DUI, people have to walk like this, like heel toe walking. So just pay attention to this really is a challenge of your balance. Okay, now cross your arms the other way. So put the other arm on top. Notice if you tend to lean into the front or the back. Notice if you tend to lean into the same foot you were leaning in before. Like, do you have preference for grounding with one foot or the other? Keep your breath moving and start to slowly close your eyes. Now, pay attention to the muscles of your glutes, your legs, your core. It's not just about the feet, but the more you can stabilize with the other parts of your body, the better your balance will become. Notice all the subtle little movements of your feet. There should be a lot of movement of your feet. I'd be very surprised if anybody's just like still in their feet with your eyes closed. And then relax that and come back to neutral. Give your legs a little bit of a shake. Okay. All right, now the up down thing is also a training of your balance, and we're not going to go, all the way up and all the way down, but we're going to go about halfway. So inhale, reaching the arms up, and then exhale, bend like a chair, reach your chest down, touch your knees. Inhale, come back up. Leaning a little forward, touch your knees. So just that subtle change of headspace in gravity, this trains a lot of things actually. It's not just that vestibular system in your ears, but it trains your cardiovascular system, your vagus nerve, all these things to be able to handle changes of position. How's your breath? All right, this next one will stay down there for a moment. Push the ground as if you wanted to stand up, but you're not going to. And then inhale to stand up straight. So now moving into a little bit of one-legged balance. We're going to stand on our right leg and pick up your left foot. I always think of this as like what you see dogs do when they're not using one leg. They don't like yank their leg usually all the way up. They just kind of dangle. So dangle your left leg so that you're close to the ground but not touching it. And then remember the ground's always there. Okay, so if you need a little extra balance, you've got it. Maybe take your arms out to the side for some extra balance. Okay, and then we're just going to do small little one-legged squats. Now, depending on your knees and your balance, this can be a bigger movement or a lesser movement. Find your breathing. Move a little slower, move a little faster. Try to vary what you're doing so your nervous system can't just get used to a pattern. And then relax and put your other foot down onto the ground and pause and enjoy your 2 feet for a moment. We're keeping our eyes open for this exercise. Okay, dangle your right leg. So always, as we know for our balance poses, we're trying not to like stick our hip out. We're trying not to lock the knee. We're trying not to push our pelvis forward. We want to have all those normal things we pay attention to in balance poses in place. Hip bend, knee soft, thigh back. Lift your crown. Maybe the arms come out to the side for a little extra balance support, and start to micro squats. You do not have to go deep. You can, Just check in with your knees, make sure that you're able to, you can graze your toes on the ground if your balance is a little off. You can do this with a wall close by so that you're not holding the wall, but the wall's there if you feel like you need it. Sometimes challenging our balance is more about challenging our sense of fear than it is about our muscles. So notice whether your belief system impacts whether you think you have good balance or not. Remember, vary your speeds a little bit. And then relax. And pay attention to whether you're unhappy doing this. You know, is there a resistance to balance work, or do you like it, or is it neutral? You know, pay attention to that as well. We can wrap ourselves up with balance. There's a lot of emotionality and belief that kind of hovers around balance poses. I'm not sure why. All right, let's come up onto our toes and down onto our heels. Okay, we're gonna come back to the stance, but first let's just take a little different position with our legs. Turn your toes out, come down to a squat. So let those hips open up in a little bit different way. Spread open the bones of your feet and breathe well. All right, come all the way back up to stand. And we're gonna come back to neutral territory. Finding your breath. Okay, same idea, but we're gonna challenge different positions of our legs. So there will be 3 different positions with this. We're gonna stand on our right leg, over the left knee, just to get a sense of your balance on this leg. And then we're gonna straighten our leg, and we're gonna bend our right knee and hover the straight left leg forward, and then stand back up. And then we're gonna take our leg behind you out on an angle and drop, and then come back. And then we're gonna cross the leg behind us and come down. So there's 3 squats involved in this. You can have your arms out to the sides to give you some extra help, whatever kind of movement you want in your arms to help support this. Let's try to do 5 cycles on each leg before switching to the other leg. So you can, if your balance is a little off, you can graze the heel on the ground, so you're still kind of touching the ground. You can graze the toes on the ground as you come into that side one, and you can graze your toes onto the ground as you come to the cross squat. You can take breaks in between or not. So challenge what's available in you as you're doing this. If you can do this without touching the ground, do that, but always use the ground if you need. Keep your eyes open and soft. Stabilize through your core. So there's a lot of work in the hips, in the quads, in the core, in the glutes. Make sure your gaze is nice and soft. We're not burrowing our attention, and we're maintaining our breathing. You can go slow, you can go faster, kind of just sense where you're at. I'm going to do one more round on this side. Feel free to take little breaks. Feel free to turn your attention of your gaze in different places. You can look at the floor, you can look forward. And after you've done 5 cycles, let's just relax and rest. Sometimes we can't control what happens when we slip, but if we train our systems, these muscles, if they're at the ready, we have more likely of a chance to be able to, catch ourselves in our whole body action rather than just upending and down onto the ground we go. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but many times if we practice, we can help ourselves. Okay, so now we'll do the second leg. Now don't assume this leg's the same as far as your capacities go. Remember to breathe. Nothing that you're doing here has to be fast. There's no prizes for holding it for a really long time. We're trying to, just find our sense of steady. So the leg out in front first, behind you, you can tip your chest forward a little bit. And then crossing behind you. If you can keep your foot off the ground, do so. If you need the ground, graze the foot along the ground. Notice the wobble in your knee. Notice all the activity in your foot. Stabilize with your core. Use your glutes and your hips. Make sure you're breathing. Nope, I just changed which way I went, and that was by accident, but that's also good. You can, instead of going in the same pattern, maybe try the cross before the diagonal. Just see what feels good in your body. And after you've done 5, rest for a moment and just enjoy the fact that you have 2 feet on the ground. Breathing deeply. Enjoy your 2 legs. And then let's take a nice wide-legged stance again. Maybe blocks are here for you. Wide legs, you can put your hands on blocks or on the ground. Let your head drop. Feel that symmetry in your legs. Breathing deeply. When you're ready, come into a deep squat again. Ground the 4 corners of your feet. And heel toe your feet in. Walk your feet forward and come up to stand. Now we'll try just one very traditional balance pose, tree pose. Remember, in this posture, your toes can be touching the ground, your heel can be right at the bottom of your shin, your leg can be up a little higher, your good leg can be up a little higher. Try not to have your heel into your middle knee, your inner knee. So find anywhere you want. And I like to experiment with this pose and not always do it with my leg as high as it can go. It changes things. So try to vary your tree poses. Okay. Maybe the arms come out. Remember that hip in, thigh bone back. Remember to unlock your standing knee. Maybe your arms come up. Maybe you can tip your head up and look at the sky and notice how the change of your head position affects your balance. Maybe you can try closing your eyes. Maybe arms in different positions can help. Maybe it's just a little squint so you just have the teeniest bit of vision available. And then relax and put that, note what's achy, notice the muscles that are alive in you. Is it your foot? Is it your calf? Is it your hip? Is it your core? Like, what are you sensing is taking some of the effort of your balance? Spread open the bones of your left foot and try to do the same posture. So wherever you put your foot, doesn't matter where it was, but try to match it with this leg. Hip in, thigh bone back, unlock your knee. Feel the reaching of your spine. Experiment. Notice what it feels like to have your arms out. Notice what it feels like to have your arms up. Can you soften your eyes? Even if you're using your vision, can you ungrip them? Can you have your breath? Maybe the arms can come wide to help you with balance, and look up. Maybe you can look forward and slightly close your eyes, or all the way close your eyes. And if that makes you fall out of the pose, all good. The beautiful thing about practicing, okay, we can release that now. The good thing about practicing balance poses the way we are today is that it's very safe. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to put your other foot down on the ground. We're not going to go tumbling from doing this proprioceptive balance training. Okay. All right, let's come to the front of your mat. Take a deep breath in, reach your arms up wide, and then exhale and float forward. Right, bobble your head. Inhale for a halfway lift. Melt to fold. Step back to a dog pose. Feel the backs of your legs open up. Try to descend your heels down and back. And let's come forward into a plank. Notice how much contact you have with the ground, how low you are to the ground, how stabilizing this is. Put your knees down, legs wide. Inhale, lift everything up. Legs are nice and wide on the ground. Arms can be up or down, or back toward your body, your legs. And then release. Let's take our left knee high up toward our armpit. Take a look at your knee. Breathing here, and let's turn this into a twist. Cross the right arm underneath you and twist open. Notice the back of your head on the ground, and here we are in a new position of gravity. The more stationary we become, the more we lose this capacity to right ourselves with positional changes very quickly. So yoga, along with all the many benefits, one of the nice benefits, let's switch sides, come with your right knee up. One of the beautiful benefits is that we're constantly moving in different planes of gravity. We're up and we're down and we're sideways and we're tipped and we're twisted and we're all these different positions. And this is really good for our adaptability. Come into the twist, open the breath, enjoy the weight of your head. We come back to center. Let's lie down on our back. Bring your knees into your chest. Open up your low back a little bit. And let's either cross your right thigh over your left thigh and draw your knees in, or come into reverse pigeon pose with your right foot on your left knee and draw your knees in. So, kind of experiment, see where the stretch lands in your hip. There's a lot of hip work we just did. Melt through your skull. Notice your body's awareness of gravity. This is knowing where the ground is, besides the fact that we feel it underneath us. But even if you were, not touching the ground, you would know where your head is in space because of all this beautiful vestibular system. So again, let's have such gratitude for such a small little important area of our body working well. Left foot on right knee or left thigh crossed over right thigh. Come to the second side. Marvel at these little hair cells that line these semicircular canals and these membranes in your vestibules. So it's such a beautiful, we're so incredibly, exquisitely designed. So try to marvel at yourself, when you start to have any negative self-talk, remember your hair cells and just what a miracle everything is that's in your body. All right, let's release. And if there's anything else that your body wants to do, go ahead and do it.
And as we prepare for Shavasana, no rush if you've got some poses in mind, but as you prepare for Shavasana, let's enjoy the fact that we can sense the ground. And so as you find the stillness here, notice all the places that your body is aware of the ground. Notice your experience with gravity. You know it's there. You know, you're anchored to the earth. You can give weight into your body, feel that weight, have an awareness of your relationship with gravity. Bring yourself fully into your breathing and melt everything you can. Deepen our breathing. A moment to wiggle your ankles and your toes and have a appreciation for your feet, not only for the steps that they take you on all day long, but for all this balance and proprioception that they have. And then let's open up our bodies, stretch big. And rolling to your side. And as you settle on your side for a moment, just enjoy that sense of curling in and feeling the ease of being close to the ground.
Then when you're ready, you can come on up to a comfortable seat. When you come upright, remember for a moment all of what's happening. You can kind of wobble your head around a little bit and just have such deep gratitude for all the subtleties of your nervous system and all the vestibular system in your body. Let's bring our hands together at our heart and open up our hearts and share our energy with another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.